Probably shouldn't toss this. This is toxic to the eyes, skin, and respiratory system. Welcome back to another video in the Diorama Construction series. Now, this is the phase 1 of that series where I'm going to be building up the base. So let's jump right into that. So here are all the materials that I'm going to be using for phase 1. I'll be building up to the plaster terrain area, or the plaster terrain surface, but I'll leave everything else to the rest of the series or episodes. For now, I'm going to explain what I have all here. I've been watching some diorama videos, actually before I decided I wanted to do this, just because I like, watching them. I think they're cool. Anyways, most of them use a substance called XPS foam board, and this is actually a foam board to use for insulation, but you can also use it for carving stuff. And they say it's pretty good with keeping stability. It's very solid, and it holds its shape very nicely. So we got two things of 2 foot by 2 foot XPS foam board right here that I'll be using to carve up or building up the terrain, just a little base for that. And then on top, I'm going to be using some plaster of Paris right here, which is another thing that most diorama builders use. They say it's good for building up a smooth surface. And then I have a box cutter for cutting up the XPS right here, just to shape it a little bit. I have a wire brush, and what this does is when I rub it against here, it'll make a rough surface and a more better surface for bonding with the glue and such. For the XPS, I think hot glue will just do the trick, but then for everything else, I'll just be using super glue and then a isopropyl alcohol super glue mix that I saw some people use for keeping like little itty bits of sand or whatever on the plaster. So it'll be a new learning curve for me, but hopefully it'll turn out good, and hopefully you guys stick around for that. But anyways, let's get to planning and let's get to building of the actual base of the model. First things first is we got to cut this XPS foam because it is 2 feet by 2 feet, and this board or diorama base is 2 feet by 18 feet. So we got to shave off 6 inches from the sides of both. So let's do that really quick in 3, 2, 1, now. So I got to cut, I'm assuming that sides aren't really supposed to look that jagged, but I guess a dull box cutter doesn't really help. Nonetheless, I got them all cut out and they do fit pretty good. Now for shaping this to match the landscape, I'll pull up the design of what the landscape's going to look like real quick on screen. And if you need another visual, I kind of drew out the basic design of the water or lake feature. So we have the edge of the lake right here, this top line. Everything else is going to be raised, and the very bottom of the lake is going to be sitting on the base of the board. So we'll have foam going around here. We're going to leave this blank and then just building it up as we go along. Alright, so a little change of scenery. I decided to go out in the garage just because I need to cut this. This wasn't really doing the trick. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get a clean edge with shaving off little pieces because edges look like that, kind of jagged and broken off. So I went to Michael's and got me a little hot wire foam cutter. This thing is pretty cheap, but it cuts at a very high temperature. And I'll need a respirator for cutting it, which is probably smart. But anyways, we can get into the shaping of the foam. So let's get into that in 3, 2, 1, now. how deep the lake or the part of the lake is gonna go. We'll put plaster over it because this doesn't need to be perfect. This is just a rough estimate for the base. So yeah, we'll put plaster over it, and then now we gotta do the top elevation. So the water line is gonna be right around here at the very edge of this piece of foam. But now on the map that I can show up on screen, we have an elevation rise about right here in this corner, and then it kind of is like up into this corner as well. So this will be flat pretty much. I won't build up here, but I'll build up here maybe 1 to 2 inches high. So using this scrap that I have, and then I'll build up right here and kind of connect it, but it'll thin down like this and get bigger like that. So let's get into that time lapse in 3, 2, 1, now. So this is what the base is going to look like before the plaster. I figured 2 inches was probably going to be too much or too high, so I just did 1 inch for both. I just did 1 inch for both parts. But now nothing is glued on, so I got to do that. And the first step with that is roughing up the surface with this wire brush. Just digging into it and rubbing it, so then when I glue it down, it's got something to hold on to. So let's get into doing that. First thing I want to do before I glue them down is, because hot glue is sets fairly quickly, I think what I'm going to do is just cut them into sections. I'll split this one down right in half and then maybe go across here for both layers. That way I can glue down individual pieces, kind of like Lego blocks, and everything will be actually glued down instead of just resting on a dried bead of hot glue. So yeah, one quick video of me cutting them, and then we can get into gluing them. Alright, so now that they're all cut out, we can get to gluing. So let's do that right now. To put the plaster on the base. And I have 2 things of plaster of Paris, but we're just gonna see how far one box, which is 4 pounds, gets us. So gotta dump the plaster in, or the dry mix, and then add water. I only have 1 glove, so I'm gonna just mix it with my 1 hand and then put it on. So let's do that right now. So this is what the base layer looks like with the plaster on it. I just kind of put it on to smooth everything out, but as you can see, there are still some pretty sharp edges with the foam poking through. I still have another pack of plaster of Paris. So what I think I want to do is, I noticed this after this is done drying, but I kind of want to get this slope less steep and kind of more gradually bring it down, and then connect these two right here, because this awkward dip, I just don't really like. So we're gonna do that with the second coat. I won't use as much because I don't need to cover the whole thing. So let's get into that second time lapse in 3, 2, 1. So the second layer is on the model right now. The reason why it's a different color is because the first I gave 24 hours to dry, even though the box says 20 to 30 minutes. So this probably will get to be the same color. But for now, I've gotten everything that I wanted to do. I left this part open because I realized I still want to keep that gap and have two separate humps or hills, if you will. But now we gotta sand it because this is pretty rough, and there's a little bit of there's little pockets and little grains that are not smooth. So let's get into a sanding segment right now. Plaster sanded, and I know it was probably kind of hard to see on that time lapse because the plaster is white and the dust is going to be white, but trust me, it's all pretty smooth. And now the last step is you got to paint it. Now I picked up some paint. Here's some blue, and they're all acrylic based paints. I don't think I'll be needing all of this paint, but what we're gonna do is I'm gonna be painting the base, or where the water is gonna be, a deep blue color to kind of give the epoxy resin, when you look down at some depth, so the lake looks like it's deeper than it actually is. Then we're going to be transitioning from a deep blue to a brown, and then a light brown as we get up to the top, and that'll hide some of the plaster if we get some when we get fake grass and there's maybe little gaps in there. So let's get a video of me mixing my paint colors ready, and then we'll get into a time lapse of me painting. So let's do that in 3, 2, 1. With the painting all done, that concludes this portion of the construction series, episode 1. Now, this won't be the last time you'll see paints. I'll be using some of the blues for the epoxy resin or water equivalent later down the line. And then I'm gonna pick up some greens, and we'll make trees with those, which I think will be pretty cool and pretty fun to make as well. I got nothing else to do and nothing else to say, so thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys stick around for the rest of the series. I'm sorry that this video is gonna come out maybe a month after the introduction, but I had a lot of stuff going on. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.